The regular season gives us a very good idea of how teams stack up against each other when it comes to winning a championship, but the combination of the pressure of big moments, honed-in game plans, and exploitable weaknesses can be huge game changers in a 7-game playoff series. The play-in tournament is still sorting itself out at the time that I'm making this video, so we'll be focusing on the top 6 seeds in each conference, and what we will specifically be doing in today's video is going through every playoff team from each conference, identifying the biggest issue that could end up holding them back from making a deep run. Of course, some teams are much more equipped to compete for a title than others, but no team is perfect, and all of them can be defeated. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but it also very much appreciated. Now with that being said, let's begin. Starting in the Eastern Conference, we'll begin with the number 1 seed Cleveland Cavaliers, and the biggest issue they will be dealing with going into the playoffs is finding a way to overcome their previous playoff demons. Let's face it, the Cavaliers are a pretty dang good team, and when you watch them play, there isn't necessarily anything glaring that sticks out as an issue that could hold them back. Donovan Mitchell is still an elite volume scorer, Darius Garland is back to running the show at an all-star level, Evan Mobley has taken massive strides offensively, and the team has a ton of quality depth. They're also the number 1 ranked offense in the NBA, and they're also a top 10 ranked defense. There is, however, a major difference between regular season and playoff intensity, and some of their best players still have yet to prove that they can handle that pressure. Darius Garland struggled mightily scoring the ball in the playoffs last season and ultimately shot the team out of a few winnable games. Evan Mobley's ineffective shot creation shrunk the floor too much at times, so he needs to prove that his improved shooting touch will translate to the playoffs to keep things flowing, and Jarrett Allen has been open about his struggles dealing with the bright lights of playoff basketball as well. So even though they don't have any specific issues, they need to come in with a better mentality to live up to their expectations. Next up is the 2 seed Boston Celtics, and their biggest issue going into the playoffs is that they don't really force that many turnovers at all on defense. In the playoffs, a few bad breaks could be the difference between a win and a loss, and the groups that cause the most havoc on defense give themselves a big advantage. The Celtics are, of course, the reigning NBA champions with a lot of the same core guys back ready to make a run at defending their title, and with this team being as good as it is, I've got to dig deep to find a real issue with their play, but while they are an elite defense overall, ranking 4th best in the NBA on that end, their success comes from their ability to get stops at a high level. That obviously is a really strong recipe for success, but winning the turnover battle in the playoffs is also a huge key to success, and that's not really the Celtics' strong suit. Boston ranks 27th in the NBA in forcing turnovers, with the only teams ranking below them being the Bulls, Suns, and Jazz, none of which are playoff teams unless the Bulls make a surprise run out of the play-in tournament. Next up is the 3 seed New York Knicks, and their biggest issue going into the playoffs is their lack of bench production. This is going to sound harsh, but the Knicks have the worst bench unit in the playoffs, and for a team that has overworked their starters all season long, that could be a serious problem. I'm not just spewing out baseless opinions regarding this either, because the Knicks literally rank dead last in the NBA this season in bench points per game. The starting lineup played more minutes per game than any other starting lineup in the regular season too, with Josh Hart leading the NBA in minutes per game, Mikal Bridges ranking 3rd in the NBA in minutes per game, OG Anunoby ranking 5th, Jalen Brunson ranking 14th, and Karl Anthony Towns ranking 20th. The entire starting lineup ranks in the top 20, and in the playoffs, starters' minutes typically get ramped up even further, so those guys are going to be exhausted, which is almost exactly what happened during last year's playoffs. Not having a serviceable bench unit that can give them some much-needed rest is far and away the thing that Knicks fans need to be worried about the most. Miles Bridges is the only proven playoff performer off their bench as a shooter that can heat up quickly. Otherwise, they have the corpse of PJ Tucker, Mitchell Robinson still trying to return to full strength, Precious Achiuwa, who is a stretch big that hasn't actually shot well at all, and then some complete liabilities on defense in Landry Shamet and Cam Payne. Next is the 4 seed Indiana Pacers, and their biggest issue going into the playoffs is their rebounding struggles. The Pacers have found a very good groove going into the playoffs, with Tyrese Halliburton returning to form, Pascal Siakam pacing them, scoring the ball, Miles Turner providing some solid two-way impact, and the depth around them playing their roles exceptionally. They're probably the most underrated group in the playoffs right now, but it is imperative that you are able to finish defensive possessions off with a rebound to secure the stop in the playoffs, because second chance points can be absolutely backbreaking, and the Pacers were one of the worst rebounding teams in the entire NBA this year. Overall, they ranked 28th in rebounding this season, topping only the 76ers and the Nets, and neither of those teams made the playoffs, so the Pacers are the worst rebounding team in the postseason this year. Facing off against the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round, who have Giannis Antetokounmpo and Brook Lopez wreaking havoc in the middle, could throw them off in the heat of battle, and it's not going to get any easier after that if they do advance. Next up is the 5 seed Milwaukee Bucks, and their biggest issue going into the playoffs is their perimeter defense. The Bucks, once upon a time, were a unit that dominated on the defensive end with one of the most well-rounded lineups top to bottom, and it helped them win a ring. That, however, is no longer the case, and while guys like Giannis Antetokounmpo and Brook Lopez are two of the best defensive talents at their positions, the rest of the lineup lets them down big time. Overall, the team ranks as the 12th ranked defense, which is average, but their holes are easily exploitable. Damian Lillard is one of the worst perimeter defenders when healthy, and now he's dealing with some health issues that won't allow him to be at 100% when he does return to the court, so his output may get even worse. Taurean Prince is decent but not shifty enough to hang with quick guards. Newly acquired Kyle Kuzma is someone they hoped could be their versatile perimeter defender who could lock down opposing teams' best players, but that just has not panned out, and bench players like Gary Trent, Kevin Porter, and AJ Green cannot stop a nosebleed. Next up is 6 seed Detroit Pistons, and their biggest issue going into the playoffs is their lack of secondary playmaking. Cade Cunningham has emerged as not only one of the best point guards, but one of the best overall players in the NBA this year, and a lot of what the Pistons do runs through him. He had the 3rd highest usage rate this season, behind only Giannis Antetokounmpo and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, so the ball is in his hands a ton, and that's a lot of pressure being put on a young player getting his first ever taste of playoff basketball at the NBA level. Detroit has done an excellent job building a lineup that can bolster Cade's strengths, providing sharpshooters like Malik Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr. to launch threes around him, Asar Thompson and Tobias Harris to play some versatile defense in the front court, and Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart to play with a level of toughness and edge to them to set the tone in the middle. But there isn't really any high-level secondary playmaker next to him. They're hoping that Dennis Schroeder can be that after trading for him at the trade deadline, but the last time Schroeder played playoff basketball was with the Lakers, where he was a bit of a liability out on the floor and struggled to make much of an impact, so it's hard to put a ton of faith in him being that answer. Ron Holland is a promising creator, but as a rookie is not ready for a big role yet. Tobias Harris has way too many playoff demons of his own to be relied upon, and Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley are too one-dimensional as shooters to hand things over to them, so we'll see how Cunningham handles the pressure when the intensity ramps up. Now over to the Western Conference, the biggest issue with the 1 seed Oklahoma City Thunder also happens to be their secondary playmaking. Not trying to give cop-out answers here, but it's genuinely difficult to find something concerningly weak about this year's Thunder team. They finished with the best record in the NBA, they're a team ranked in the top 5 both offensively and defensively, and they've got a ridiculous amount of quality depth at every position, and they're led by the assumed MVP in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. A lot of these things applied to last year's Thunder squad as well though, yet they fell in the second round of the playoffs as the 1 seed then too. A lot of players put up good scoring numbers, but they have a lot to prove as capable go-to scoring options in big moments on this Thunder team if they want to be able to go all the way this season. Shai can be a one-man wrecking crew leading the NBA in scoring this year, but the Thunder's offensive rating drops a ridiculous 10.5 points when he's out of the game. Jalen Williams needs to be more aggressive this year because star power is what at the highest level wins games, and if he wants to truly be seen as a star, handling more of a scoring load is at the top of that checklist. Next up is the 2 seed Houston Rockets, and their biggest issue going into the playoffs is their half-court offense. The Rockets are another big-time breakout team this year, going from a rebuild to near the top of the Western Conference standings, and they've done it by becoming a truly elite defense. Their offense is another story though, and as we all know, things slow down a lot in the playoffs, so executing in your half-court sets is crucial. The Rockets are unfortunately the worst-ranked half-court offense to make the playoffs, barring Orlando's play-in tournament outcome, and it's not difficult to see why. Unfortunately for them, they're great in numbers, but are lacking in a true superstar caliber talent to score consistently when the going gets tough. Who do they give the ball to down the stretch of a close game? Jalen Green is way too erratic with his shot selection and decision making to be that guy. Fred VanVleet has lost a step since his days as a champion with the Raptors. Amen Thompson can't shoot from the perimeter, and Alperen Şengün isn't really the closing type either, operating in the post area. So when it comes to needing that superstar go-to guy, or even someone that can just create something out of nothing, it's a lot of question marks. Up next is the 3 seed Los Angeles Lakers, and their biggest issue going into the playoffs is their center rotation, or to be more accurate, their lack of a center rotation. Trading for Luka Doncic was a no-brainer that has made so many parts of this team better in a massive way, but in doing so, they gave up elite defensive talent, Anthony Davis, holding things down in the middle, and the only center left in their rotation is Jackson Hayes. Hayes has been terrific on defense all season long, but he's only good enough to play about 15 to 20 minutes per game, and the rest of the time, the Lakers are forced to play small ball lineups. The Western Conference is filled with a lot of big and powerful lineups filled with size and strength that could end up overpowering them in the long run. So while there are so many reasons to buy into this new-look Lakers team, they're just very small. Dorian Finney-Smith, Jared Vanderbilt, Rui Hachimura, and even LeBron James may find themselves playing some center minutes, which is a tall task for extended periods of time. Next up is the 4 seed Denver Nuggets, and their biggest issue for the playoffs is their defense. Unless the Sacramento Kings somehow make it out of the play-in tournament, the Nuggets are the ones who hold the worst-ranked defense of the groups to make the playoffs. Ever since they won the title 2 years ago, this issue has gotten more and more glaring as they continue to lose key defensive contributors without acceptably replacing them. It's no secret Nikola Jokic is just not a good defensive center whatsoever. Offensively, there isn't a single thing he can't do, but on defense, he gets abused in space, and his ability to protect the rim is just flat out poor. In the past, the Nuggets have had players like Bruce Brown and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope helping a lot on the perimeter, along with Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. rotating in the front court to cover his tracks, but without the 2 guards that I just mentioned on the team anymore, they now have lackluster perimeter defenders in Russell Westbrook and Jamal Murray, getting most of the minutes, and they're getting torched. Poor perimeter defense without a quality defensive anchor in the middle is a recipe for disaster. So while this is a team that can always score with the best of them, it's going to be hard to get stops when it matters most. Up next is the 5 seed Los Angeles Clippers, and their biggest issue going into the playoffs is that they commit too many turnovers. The Clippers are really starting to find a groove over the last month of play, and now that Kawhi Leonard is back healthy, they could be legit title contenders playing at a high level on both ends of the floor. The one thing they need to take care of, though, is their turnovers, as they currently commit the most turnovers out of all of the teams to make the playoffs. James Harden still is going strong as a premier floor general at his age, and it's one of the most underrated storylines of the year that doesn't get enough credit for how great he has been at keeping this team afloat all season. But committing too many turnovers in big playoff games has always been one of his biggest drawbacks, and he's a big contributor to the team struggling in this regard. Harden is the engine that makes this team go, for better or for worse, and they need him to take care of the ball to reach their ceiling. And finally, last up is the 6 seed Minnesota Timberwolves, and their biggest issue going into the postseason is playoff Julius Randle. I know this sounds harsh to single him out, but Julius Randle has been one of the worst playoff performing stars from the last 5 years, and he no longer gets the benefit of the doubt. He's had some incredible regular seasons with the New York Knicks that resulted in him being named to the All-NBA team, only for him to then crumble under the lights of the playoffs and shoot the Knicks out out of playoff games, and there will always be worry of that repeating itself in Minnesota. For his career, he averages 17 points, shooting a miserable 34% from the field and 28% from 3 in the playoffs, which has included questionable shot selection, ball-dominant play taking the team out of rhythm, and poor body language. So this is an opportunity for him to change that narrative, but it's no guarantee that he can actually do that. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think could hold these playoff teams back. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.